Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Edward Kondrat, for those of you that don't know me, and I want to congratulate you for attending this seminar and lecture on Intro to Microcurrent. This is for two categories. Our Get Started program. This is for a patient or a practitioner who's interested in using microcurrent for themselves. So the purpose is to help you learn all the skills necessary to do microcurrent on yourself. Also, it's for level 1. Level 1 training is for the practitioner or licensed doctor who wants to learn more about microcurrent so he can bring it to his practice or clinic. Now, after you complete the Get Started and use the microcurrent for maybe 3 months or so, and if you're interested in taking the level 1, we do have that, we offer that for patients. You are required to know some basic computer skills like copying and pasting and USB drives and things like that. But if you have basic computer skills, most people can complete level 1 successfully. And what that will enable you to do is to be able to program machines, to change protocols. You have a lot more flexibility. In the Get Started, we offer you a machine between 5 and 10 protocols. Protocol number 1 is for your eye or whatever the key issue is. We also highly recommend that you have a program for detoxification, which is really essential, a program for relaxation, and also a program to stimulate your brain, because all these things work together to help you achieve the optimal results. So let's begin. I think humor is essential to healing and health. Do you need new glasses? Well, obviously this patient may think that she or he does not need glasses, but where that X is placed, I think that new glasses are needed. I believe in synchronicity. The New York Times Magazine devoted their entire issue to the body electric, and this issue came out on my birthday, May 25th, 2014. And I was excited because I've been involved with microcurrent for close to 20 years, and it's been ignored by traditional Western medicine. This article indicated that big pharma and researchers now are looking at microcurrent and looking at it as a viable, very viable alternative to improving health, and also using it as a drug delivery system. Dr. James Oschman wrote a wonderful book called Energy Medicine, and if you're interested in learning more about energy medicine, this is a great book to read. He talks a lot about microcurrent. It's interesting, in this book, he discusses the cell receptor theory, and I don't want to bore you too much with cellular physiology and pharmacokinetics. But when I was in medical school, and they're even teaching it now in medical school, that the way drugs work, you take a drug, it goes into your body. Let's say you take a high blood pressure medication, circulates in your blood, and that molecule binds to an arteriole and tells it to relax. There's a certain function. There are cell receptors that grab that molecule and it sends a signal. Now, if I take a deep breath and I smell mint, likewise, there's a mint molecule in the air and it goes in, attaches to my olfactory bulb, and I recognize it's mint. Dr. Oschman and others now feel that that whole theory is bunk, that the way pharmaceutical agents work is they have a unique frequency or vibration. And that's important to write that down and remember, frequency vibration, because that's what we're doing with microcurrent. We're delivering a specific frequency or vibration into your body, and this frequency or vibration will do a physiological action. And this is the basis of microcurrent. So imagine that this microcurrent machine that you'll be receiving could possibly replace the entire pharmaceutical industry. Now, I know most of you are here for your eyes, but microcurrent is much more than for your eyes. It's a wonderful modality to treat musculoskeletal problems, stress, depression, indigestion, insomnia. You name the problem, microcurrent can help. I know that that's kind of a bold statement, but it's phenomenal. 2 days ago, I was out on the boat here on the Gulf, and as I was disembarking from the boat, I jumped off the boat and twisted my ankle. I could not walk. I could not put any pressure on my leg. 2 microcurrent treatments, and now I'm walking without any pain at all. Another great book written by Dr. Becker. Unfortunately, he recently passed away. He was a brilliant orthopedic surgeon and researcher. He wrote a book called The Body Electric. Now, one thing about orthopedic surgery, they want to get the bones to heal. Maybe you know of somebody who had a broken hip, and they got to put pins in the hip, and it's tough to heal. So Dr. Becker's research is how we can get the bone to heal. And he discovered that microcurrent is extremely valuable in getting the body to heal. He did experiments with salamanders where they amputated their hind legs and forelimbs, and using microcurrent, he accelerated the regeneration of these limbs. If he blocked the electrical impulse, the limbs would not regenerate. So our bodies are electric. There is an electrical flow through our bodies, and we need that for healing. We need that for health. Without that electrical flow, life does not exist. Now, I was introduced to microcurrent about 20 years ago, believe it or not, through Sam Snead. The golfer? The great golfer. The great golfer. And I had the opportunity, well, I heard Paul Harvey on the radio talk about Salmon Slam is back golfing. He had macular degeneration, had poor vision, couldn't see enough to drive, and now he's back golfing because of microcurrent. And as soon as I heard that, I called up the manufacturer of that microcurrent machine. I was an eye surgeon at that time. I was seeing a lot of macular degeneration patients, wasn't able to help them, and I said, let's give it a shot. So I got 10 machines. I called up 10 patients and said, are you interested in this new treatment? I don't know if it's going to work, but come on in. So I can remember before I treat patients, I usually treat myself and then I treat my wife. So I'm sitting there at my desk, and I can remember that. It was a sunny day in July. I'm sitting at the desk. I have the microcurrent machine, and you know, the Hippocratic Oath states, physician do no harm. So I wanted to treat myself first. So as I put those electrodes to my eye, the first image came to my mind is headline on the newspaper, eye surgeon blinded by microcurrent. But I did the treatment on myself, and by golly, my vision seemed to be a little clearer. May have been a placebo effect, but I treated 10 patients, and 7 out of 10 had an improvement of vision. And I said, I got to use this in my practice. I did not wait for the FDA to do a national study for it to be approved, because I believe that the practice of medicine is a physician decides, based on his judgment, what therapy should be done. Not what the government tells you, and not what the insurance company tells you, what your judgment tells you. That's the practice of medicine. So anyway, I had the unique opportunity later on to treat Sam Snead. I spent a week with him in Florida. I treated his eyes, and he gave me golf lessons. So everybody wants to know, what did Sam tell you about your golf game? So he had me hit a bucket of balls, then a second bucket, and he's walking all around me, looking at different angles. And finally, he put his arm around me and said, Dr. Conrad, here's what I want you to do. I want you to cut back over the next year and just give it up. So I listened to Sam. I no longer play golf. I cut back for a year and gave it up. And I've never been happier. What did Mark Twain say? Golf is a nice walk spoiled. Now, microcurrent is phenomenal for athletes. Lance Armstrong, in addition to blood doping, his team every night hooked themselves up to microcurrent machines. I talked to the physician for the cycling team. Hooked their bodies up to microcurrent. Those athletes on the right, Dr. Kondrat and my wife Lee, we did the Marine Corps Marathon a couple years ago, and I had no business running the Marine Corps Marathon. I'm in my 60s, I'm overweight, out of shape, but my son was running his first marathon, and I wanted to let my son know that the old man could still run a marathon. When I finished the race, I was sore. I ached. I couldn't even get out of bed. I had to push myself out of bed, get on my knees, and like wobbly getting up, shaking. And when I was in my 20s and 30s doing marathons, it would take me a week or two to recover when I was young. One 30-minute treatment with the microcurrent completely restored my body. Completely. I said, boy, this stuff works. You know, you're using microcurrent for patients treating eye disease, but when you start experiencing things yourself, then it becomes much more impressive. Now, we also put the microcurrent to the test. We did the 500-mile Camino de Santiago pilgrimage in Spain. 500 miles. Now, if you've never heard of the Camino de Santiago, promise me you'll get a copy of the book called The Way, starring Martin Sheen.
There's a movie,
The Way. Wonderful. It was filmed on location. And also a great book called Field of Stars by Kevin Codd. But be careful, because I think if you read the book Field of Stars, you'll probably be packing your bags, flying to Spain to do the Camino de Santiago. But 500 miles, walking 15 to 20 miles every day, and carrying all your belongings on your back. And in order to do this pilgrimage properly, you have to do it in 33 days, 1 day for each year of the life of Christ. So people say, thank goodness he didn't die at a younger age. So 500 miles in 33 days. And if you'd like to read the blog about this, go to healingtheeye.com/Camino. My wife kept a wonderful blog, and we kind of reflected on the Camino as we did the 500 miles. And here's some pictures along the way. Beautiful Spanish countryside. It was probably the most inexpensive vacation I ever did in my life. You stop at these refugios and places where $5 to $10 you can spend a night. If you don't have any money, you can sleep in the church. They have, you get a shell on your back that you wear, a shell which labels you as a pilgrim. You're a holy person walking the Camino. So all the restaurants and hotels have discounts for the pilgrim. So they have a pilgrim dinner, salad, entree, dessert, and a bottle of wine for 10 euros. Probably, it was just wonderful. The food was great. And if you're doing it to lose weight, you're probably not going to lose weight. Believe it or not, I did not lose any weight. One of the highlights of the trip is called the Hill of the Cross, where you're supposed to leave a stone which represents something you want to leave behind. So as I was looking at the stone, it was, you know, why did my wife leave me, or why did, you know, somebody die of cancer, and, you know, it's something you have anger with, you leave behind. Now, my wife tried to chain me to that cross, but I broke away. She couldn't leave me behind. But microcurrent was my friend. Here's me treating my foot with the microcurrent. The thing that hurt the most doing the 500 miles, I developed a plantar fasciitis. Just the bottom of my feet ached. And I started the trip with brand new REI hiking shoes, the best model I could get. By the end of the Camino, I could hold that shoe up, and the leather was thin. It was totally worn away. And one of the traditions at the end of the Camino, you burn your shoes. There's a place, put your shoes in, you burn them.
Did you do that?
I burned my shoes, yeah. They were no good. Couldn't get them resold. Also, I did, if it's good enough for Lance Armstrong, I did a whole body treatment, holding the gloves at night, sleeping inflammation and regeneration going through my body. So on the Camino, the word got out that there's a doctor with a magic box. So everybody that was having pain would be looking for me on the Camino. Are you the guy with the magic box? And they would want treatment. So this was a guy, a Dutchman, that we met on the trail. I gave him a treatment.
This was voodoo medicine. I thought it won't help me anything.
Because you're a big guy.
But it does.
Right? Like 60-ish%?
60?
Come on, let's go.
So a couple of years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, I published an article reviewing 152 patients that I treated using alternative therapies for the eye. And I was really excited about this publication because it's a peer-reviewed journal. It was reviewed by other doctors. So this kind of gives evidence to the medical profession that the therapies that I'm using to help restore lost vision indeed work. And you can get a copy of this article, especially if your eye doctor or your family doctor doesn't believe in it. Well, he can read this published article. But
what is the, Dr. Conrad, what is the article? Is that
it's alternative therapies in health and disease, but if you go to our website, you can download it. But this reviews the patients that I've treated in categories. So age-related macular degeneration, dry, was the number one. Then glaucoma was second, wet. Then macular hole, wrinkle, pucker, Stargardt's disease, which is a type of macular degeneration, cataracts, ischemic optic nerve disease, retinitis pigmentosa, diabetic, etc. Now it's interesting, when I first started doing microcurrent, I only treated dry macular degeneration, didn't treat anything else. The reason is traditional Western medicine had treatments for wet, injections, laser. There is a treatment for cataracts, cataract operation, and for glaucoma. So I didn't touch those conditions. But then the more confidence I got using the microcurrent and seeing more and more patients that were suffering because of maybe complications from cataract operations, maybe complications from glaucoma drops or glaucoma surgery, I began using microcurrent in treating these patients. And much to my surprise, the results were just as good, if not better, than the treatment of dry macular degeneration. So now just about any eye condition can benefit from microcurrent, except there's a few conditions, like if you have a detached retina, I'm not going to even consider microcurrent on that. You need a surgical repair, but then microcurrent could be extremely beneficial to help the eye regenerate. The retinal surgeons have no problem putting the retina back after a detached retina, but then it has very little function. Also with glaucoma, now I feel anybody with glaucoma should be using microcurrent because microcurrent improves the health of the optic nerve, improves circulation to the eye. Same thing with cataracts. Cataracts, it can slow the progression of cataracts, it can help detoxify the eye, and in some cases improve vision. So these are the modalities that I use, and this is all part of my year-long Contraindications Restore Vision program. And I would encourage all of you to consider the year program. And many people will begin with the Get Started, and whatever you have paid for the Get Started, your tuition and cost of the machine, you can always credit it towards the one-year program, because I feel that's the best way I can help you, working with you over a year period with homeopathy, changing your microcurrent frequencies, light therapy, testing for heavy metals, all these things. But these are the four modalities that I used: microcurrent, IV nutrition, oxidative treatments, and light therapy. Now, the results were recorded after 3 days, but I feel that the microcurrent was the main source of improvement after those 3 days. The IV nutrition takes months. You're not going to have 1 or 2 IV nutrition treatments and have an improvement of vision. Same thing with the oxidative treatments. Most doctors will say it takes 3 to 6 months. Dr. Julian Whitaker, who's a brilliant alternative doctor in California, does a Meyer cocktail for macular degeneration. And he's helped thousands of patients. But it takes 3 to 6 months of these IVs before you see an improvement. Same thing with oxidative treatments using a highly reactive substance called ozone, given intravenously. It takes months before you see an improvement. So microcurrent is something that can really jumpstart your body, stimulate the healing, and I hope that after this talk, you understand why microcurrent does this. So this is the result of the 152 patients that I treated. 2 lines, 10 letters or more, and 43 eyes, or 15% of the patients. Now, 10 letters, you know, when you look at the eye chart, there's the big E and the SL, and you move down the chart. So 10 letters is a significant improvement, especially for a condition that the average ophthalmologist will say nothing can be done to improve your vision. Now, 1 line or 5 letters, so 54%, and roughly 92% of the patients had some improvement of vision, which was pretty good, some remarkable. Now, this is a patient. This dark area up here, the black area, is blind. So imagine looking straight ahead and you have no vision up. This is a glaucoma damage. After 3 days of treatment, completely restored to normal. Now, most doctors, when they see this can't be done. It's impossible. But believe it or not, this was a medical doctor that I treated who had this change. Another person, this is the blind area, and after 3 days. Another patient, blind, after 3 days.
I'm Dr. Carol Benoit, neurologist, and I have just seen Dr. Edward Kondrat for the first time for devastating eye problems that have really put me under for the last month, especially rapidly worsening eye inflammation and tearing. My basic problem is glaucoma due to autoimmune eye disease called uveitis. And in the hands of 4 conventional ophthalmologists, of course, nothing gets better. I just add eye drops, which I'm rabidly allergic to at this point, and eye visits and costs. And he has significantly reduced the size of a blind spot in my left eye. I am just so thrilled about that. He's improved my visual acuity significantly, 3 lines on the eye chart. My contrast sensitivity is markedly improved. And my comfort level is markedly improved. Every treatment seems to bring greater improvement for me. I've been most impressed with the reduction in my allergic symptoms with the cold laser, but everything helps. I love the microcurrent machine. It gets me more relaxed than anything that I have gone through. But basically, to see the improvement that I have just learned about today after this, my 3rd day of treatment, is astonishing, with hope for further improvement in the future. God bless him. Thank God for bringing me here. Thank you.
And here's another patient. This is a heart rate variability device where it measures the variable beating of your heart, which relates to your autonomic nervous system. And you can see physical stress is low, mental stress is very high. And this is me. And so I have the machine in the office, so I was doing deep breathing to see if it could change it. I went out and ran for 30 minutes to see if it would change it. Nothing kind of budged it. Then I did a 15-minute relaxation program with the microcurrent. And here's what happened after 15 minutes. So it's one thing when you do a microcurrent treatment and you feel better, you feel more relaxed, but you wonder if it's a placebo effect, if it's really doing anything. But when you have an objective feedback like this, and the same thing happens when we get an objective feedback, when we measure your acuity, your contrast, your visual fields, we're getting an objective feedback. So it's more than you saying, well, I think things are a little brighter. Things may be a little sharper. You know, there are objective ways of doing it. So one thing is when you do the microcurrent, some people notice a marked improvement of their vision after a couple of treatments. Others take some time. And I am going to be talking about ways to improve the results of microcurrent. Microcurrent is a very powerful tool. But if you don't have the building blocks in your body, you don't have the right nutrition, the right minerals, and you don't have the right oxygenation and the right mental attitude, and you don't reduce the stress, microcurrent's not going to work. So it's kind of like having a really fancy sports car. Everything looks good, and you have gasoline and everything, but if you don't have the battery or the electrical system hooked up, it's not going to run. So we're going to talk about nutrition, removing heavy metals and things like that, which will interfere with the overall results. Now this is a medical doctor that had a long-term problem with temporomandibular joint disease, TMJ. And this is where you get excruciating pain in your jaw. She also had brain fog. Now she's an acupuncturist alternative doctor, and she hadn't had much success using these different modalities. And after 3 minutes of microcurrent, she shares her experience.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ada Santiago. I'm a pediatrician, board certified. I'm also a naturopath, an acupuncturist, and homeopath. I came here to see how the machine works, this barn, and it's wonderful. I suffer from a chronic MJ, and I have the neck problems and the tendinitis and everything. And also, I was forgetting things because I was so tired. I work in a hospital, and after 3 minutes of having it on here for the MJ, and I put it in my brain, I remembered things I couldn't remember about 20 minutes ago. I can't remember what's the name, and look at my mouth. I can finally open my mouth, which is usually cannot be done because the TMJ makes your temporomandibular joint inflamed. So I recommend highly this product for everybody. Thank you.
Now this is another doctor, and that's why I think the brain treatment, there's a saying that, it's all in your head. This is a doctor that had ankle pain, and he did the brain treatment, and the ankle pain went away. So he shared.
You're on. Okay. I used the brain balance last night, and this morning I didn't wake up with any pain in my left foot that I've had for probably 3 months now, every morning without relief, except that it goes away when I walk. Except this morning I didn't have it when I woke up. So I'm assuming it was the brain balance.
Interesting. What? Keep us posted on if it comes back. Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
So I did see him 6 months later. He was using the microcurrent every day, and this is him 6 months.
Okay. After using the brain balance on my temples, the foot pain that I came to Dr. Condra for last, I guess that was July, it was better, and then it got worse again, but then with continued use it's gotten better, and it's also a lot easier to handle anxiety and stress since I've been using it.
Great. Thank you.
So the lesson here is, treating the brain, and you'll be getting that particular protocol on your microcurrent machine, the brain treatment. So not only do we treat the eye, we do programs to reduce your stress, which is really important because if the body is in a stress state, it will not heal. Certain physiological changes take place. And unfortunately, traditional Western medicine puts you in a stress state. If you don't have the surgery, you're going to die. If you don't take your eye drops, you're going to go blind. They scare you. And when you're in that stress state, your body will not heal. So you'll have the eye program, the relaxation program, the brain program, and the detox. And we'll be talking about that later, how important it is to get rid of heavy metals. So we have an annual meeting, microcurrent meeting, and it's published. The case proceedings are published, and I don't know, we have it every year, but I would highly encourage you to get in touch with the office and find out the dates. Every year we publish it. Now recently I was approached. I've been doing microcurrent now for close to 20 years, and I have met with the FDA to try to get it approved. I've conducted many different studies. I've actually done some research at the University of Rome trying to prove the effectiveness of microcurrent. But a major investor in California approached me, the Leo Heart Organization, and they want to take the microcurrent technology to the market for eye disease, which is kind of exciting. And they have patents so far. Their patents are remarkable. Certain frequencies that can stimulate stem cells, certain frequencies that can stimulate the growth of new blood vessels. And right now, he has taken to market a device to use after cardiac surgery or after a heart attack. Because one of the problems after a heart transplant, cardiac surgery, you have irritability of the heart muscle. The scar tissue gives it irritability, and that can lead to ventricular tachycardia and death. And this microcurrent device that he's developed helps relax the heart muscle, helps regeneration, and helps reduce that irritability. And this is commercially available right now. But it uses the same frequencies that we're using. That once you take it and market it and get it approved by the FDA, the price dramatically goes up. So this device is around $20,000. So I'm certain that once the microcurrent is approved by the FDA for the treatment of macular degeneration, you're going to be looking at a $15,000 to $20,000 machine. It's used to treat diabetic foot ulceration, improve circulation of the legs. It's widely accepted and used by a lot of hospitals. Great for treating limb ischemia, poor circulation in the leg. So there are hundreds of articles published showing that it can help with wound healing, improving circulation. So it makes sense if you have an eye problem, and most eye problems, macular degeneration and glaucoma, one of the problems is decreased circulation. As we get older, less blood going to our eye, decreased oxygenation. If we can improve the oxygenation, improve the circulation, we are going to improve our vision. So this is the company called iCell, and I'm on the board, and we're doing research, and we hope to take the microcurrent machine to market for regeneration. So what can microcurrent do? Improves blood flow, stimulates cellular activity. There was an article published in the orthopedic research that showed that certain levels of microcurrent, low current, can improve cellular activity by up to 500%. 500%, not 10, 20, 500. But the same article indicated that if the current got a little too high, it actually reduced cellular activity. So the important thing to take away from that is you can buy a commercial microcurrent machine on eBay for $70. It's not a microcurrent machine, it's a TENS machine. It delivers a very high current. High current can be helpful for reducing musculoskeletal spasm and pain, but if you use it to treat your eye, you can cause damage. So we're using extremely low levels to gently stimulate eye healing. Microcurrent can remove scar tissue, can reduce inflammation. It has a neuroprotective effect. And this is the article that I mentioned, published in Clinical Orthopedics and Related Research, showing that between 50 and 500 microamps will cause an increase in mitochondrial activity, an increase of 300 to 500% in ATP levels. ATP is kind of like the gasoline of the cell. It balances the autonomic nervous system, which is extremely important, because if your autonomic nervous system isn't balanced, your body will not heal. We got to get you out of that stress state. It treats neuropathies, very effective for treating neuropathies, treating depression, detoxification, and recently there's been a lot of articles published showing that it stimulates stem cells. So when I cut my finger, I don't have to get stem cell therapy or go to the doctor and get stem cells. My body knows what to do. But unfortunately, as we get older, I'm 67, my stem cells are 67 years of age, and sometimes they need a little boost. So that's why microcurrent can help. It can help stimulate those stem cells. So I think that may be another modality why people have their vision improve. and why vision is restored. It lowers intraocular pressure, but I usually tell glaucoma patients the main purpose of microcurrent should not be to lower your pressure. Typically, when I see a glaucoma patient, they're already taking 2 or 3 drops. So their pressure is physiologically lowered through those drugs. The microcurrent is not going to lower it anymore. The big plus with microcurrent is it's going to improve the circulation to the nerve, help restore some of that lost nervous function, because glaucoma is a disease of the optic nerve. Reverses macular degeneration. And ladies, the #1 use for microcurrent in the world is not for the eye, facial rejuvenation. So we have protocols for facial rejuvenation. And not just the ladies, the men too. You can use it. And it's really big for correcting musculoskeletal problems, injuries, chronic pain. So the history of microcurrent goes back to the early 1900s when they had various electromagnetic devices to use. And unfortunately in 1934, it was reported unscientific by the Flexner Report. Now the Flexner Report looked at medical schools based on the pharmaceutical model. See, at one time in the history of medicine, there was 2 theories. It was the vitalistic theory and the mechanistic. The vitalist believes that the body had an energy, a spirit, a soul, and if we could improve the energy, health would improve. The mechanists felt that the body was like an engine, like a car. You know, you place the valves, change the oil, and it'll run. And big pharma and medicine now and surgery is based on the mechanistic theory. So the way microcurrent operates is that every tissue in our body has a unique frequency or vibration. So the skin has a unique frequency, the liver, the eye, the cornea. And this frequency is due to the density of the tissue, the carbon-oxygen bonding, the amount of hydration, the weight. And we talk about frequencies in terms of hertz, which is numbers of time a second something vibrates. So the range is between 0.1 to 999 hertz. That's typically what we use. Now these frequencies are not Rife frequencies. Rife frequencies are a much higher frequency. And the Rife machine was a machine that did not touch your body. When Rife was alive, he said if you bought an imposter machine that they called Rife and it touched your body, it was not a Rife machine. People are selling machines out there using Rife frequencies. It's not the same as frequency specific. So if you have 2 tuning forks, and if I have a C-sharp tuning fork and another C-sharp tuning fork and I vibrate, what's going to happen? There's going to be a harmony or a resonance. Likewise, when we treat your body, we send a certain frequency. So if we send a frequency to the retina, we want to match your frequency, and it harmonizes and it supports the tissue and gives it energy. Now this became clear to me a couple of years ago. I got my ham radio license. And with the ham radio, I could talk to anybody in the world. But we have to dial in the right frequency. And this is my handle here, KM4JQR. So if I'm on the radio and you're dialing in that frequency, it'll vibrate. We're connected. Then we can talk. So there's a second frequency that we send, the frequency of the voice. That's what we do in microcurrent. We send a frequency to identify your retina. And once we identify the retina, there's a channel set up. Then we send a second frequency to try to tell the retina what to do. Okay, reduce inflammation, regenerate, get rid of toxins. So it's paired frequencies that we send. Now one mistake people make, you may have a 30-minute microcurrent treatment for your eye. And many people think that, oh, it's the same frequency over 30 minutes. No. You're getting a new frequency pair every 15 to 30 seconds. So if you're running a 30-minute program, make sure you run it completely. The mistake is you run it for 15 minutes, turn off the machine, and I'll do 15 minutes later. while you're only doing the first 15 minutes of frequencies, you're not doing the last 15. And here's a list of frequencies that are used for navigation, and the big one is channel 16, 156.8 megahertz, which is calling the Coast Guard for emergencies. Now, an osteopathic physician in the early 1900s, Dr. Albert Abrams, developed a device called a squeak box. And what he did is you put tissue samples in a little well, and you would turn the knobs, and he was able to measure the frequency that those tissues had. So this is one of the ways that we came up with frequencies. When I began doing microcurrent, there was just a limited number of frequencies for the eye, and most of the frequencies I determined were empirically, just by trial and error. Somebody comes in with macular, you run different frequencies, and you see how they respond. Dr. Charles McWilliams developed a compilation of frequencies, thousands of different frequencies in this book that we're using for our treatment. And there's a frequency, you name the condition, like here, stimulates normal pancreas function. There's a frequency for that. Normalized white blood cell production. You name the condition, there's a particular frequency. Dr. Carol McMakin, a chiropractor, has really taken frequency specific to an elegant level. She's written a book, Frequency Specific in Pain Management, and she teaches doctors all over the world utilizing frequency-specific microcurrent treating musculoskeletal problems. So, as I mentioned, each tissue in the body has a unique frequency. So the retina has a frequency of 95 hertz, the macula 137. Each type of pathology has a frequency. So if you have hemorrhage is 18, if you have hemorrhage of the macula, I would run 18 and 137 into your eye. That's just an example. So let's take a painful knee. 40 is inflammation, 284 is chronic inflammation, 29 spasm, 18 hemorrhage, 13 scar tissue. Now this is interesting, 970, emotional component. It seems like every tissue in the body has an emotional component. And this isn't a new concept. 5,000 years ago, the Chinese identified the liver, the emotion of the liver is anger and frustration. Kidneys are fear, lungs are grief. So I don't know what the emotional frequency of the retina is, but it seems to be one of the most powerful frequencies that we use in treatment. So that's a frequency that goes into every treatment that we do, every protocol. Then we also have to look, if you're looking at the knee, we also have to look at the location of the pathology. So we don't treat a sore knee. We're trying to treat the pathology, inflammation, scar tissue, spasm, and we're also treating the location. Is it the bursa, connective tissue, fascia? Now the interesting thing is microcurrent can be used as a diagnostic tool. So if I have a sore knee and I go to a traditional doctor, he'll give me a shot of steroids or put some ice on it. But a microcurrent therapist will run different frequencies in. So let's say they run spasm, there's no change. Let's say they run inflammation, and the pain's much better. So I know it's inflammation, not spasm. So it can be used as a diagnostic. Now this is really interesting because when I first started to treat glaucoma, I was running in different frequencies for different parts of the eye. The aqueous humor, which is the fluid in the eye, eye pressure, things like that. And I wasn't getting really good results. But then when I started using brain frequencies for the autonomic nervous system, people got better. So I discovered by using microcurrent that glaucoma is a disease of the autonomic nervous system. And this was maybe 10 years ago. Recently in the ophthalmic literature, they've determined that glaucoma is a disease. It's like Alzheimer's of the eye. It's a disease of the neurological system. It's not an eye disease. So now the problem with microcurrent is that if you take these tissue frequencies and these pathology frequencies, so if you take 40 inflammation and you run 40 with 39, then 40 with 195, 40 with 157, 77, you can see it's a lot of frequency pairs. And this is what it looks like. So early on in microcurrent, I would sit down with a patient, talk to them, write down what pathology I thought was involved and what tissue. Then I would take that into my technician, and they have a microcurrent machine, and I'd start running the frequency pairs manually. Put them in, run it for a minute, then the next one. So I'd have 5 technicians. So people got good results, but then I couldn't send them home with all these frequency pairs because there was not a programmable device. This was the machine that we used. It was the blue box. You had to turn the knobs and adjust it manually. So I consulted with 3 electrical engineers. Can I develop a programmable machine? And each firm wanted $50,000 to $60,000 retainer to do the research. They felt it wasn't possible, and even if they could develop it, it wouldn't be approved by the FDA. So I was really down in the dumps. I was living in Phoenix at the time. I signed up to get a master's degree in electrical engineering. Started attending classes. My first class, I can remember, was advanced digital circuitry. And I have a lot more respect for electrical engineers. I may know a little bit about the eye, but it was so over my head. But the main reason I went there was to hang out with the geeks, to see what was going on at the university. So I met a guy there named Ning Wu, and I call him Ning Wow now. Ning Wu, 3rd generation electrical engineer. His father is professor of electrical engineering at Beijing University. So when Ning was a kid, he was doing electrical circuits. So Ning and I became friends, and he was fascinated that electrical engineering and microcurrent could actually cure blindness. So he worked on the project with me. Evenings we'd get together looking at the microcurrent machine. He had a team in Canada, a team in China, and in 6 months, he had the first programmable microcurrent machine developed and approved by the FDA. And this is it, the microcurrent machine. So this machine has a lot more power and versatility than that $20,000 big blue box. Kind of like now, you know, the iPhone. It looks small, but it has as much computing power as in 1960 as a building with terminals. So this little machine is completely programmable. Means that we can put in specific frequencies for you. Not only can we put in those specific frequencies, but we could change them at any point in time. And as I mentioned, if you're really interested in doing it yourself, you can take the level 1 training and learn how to program your own machine. So that's kind of exciting. So this is what the machine looks like. The question I get is, why do you use gloves? Why don't you use EKG pads or sticky pads? You can, but I like the gloves the best because they're simple to use. You moisten them. They work very, very effectively. And we use pads. We use electroconductive glasses. We tried everything in the past, but this seems to work the best. So we covered frequencies. Frequency pair. A frequency pair is 2 frequencies that will produce a specific effect. So maybe the frequency for the retina, frequency for inflammation. That's 1 frequency pair. A protocol is a collection of frequency pairs. So your eye protocol may be 30 to 100 different frequency pairs. Your detox protocol may be a collection of 50 to 60. So there's many, many different frequency pairs in the protocol. A program is a device where you have 5 to 10 different protocols together to treat your condition. So the important takeaway point is you're not going to be treating your eye with 1 protocol. You're going to be using a relaxation treatment, a detoxification treatment, and the brain treatment. Okay? So this is a typical program. Eye program is number 1, detox number 2, 3 is stress, brain and sensory, and miscellaneous. This is one you can pick. Many of you are going to say, I don't need the detox or stress. Those of you that tell me you don't need it are the ones that really need it. I don't need the stress, Dr. Conrad. I just want my eye better. And we have a list of hundreds of general protocols. And we'll give you a sheet where you can go through the list and pick out the one that you think may be appropriate for you to use as a miscellaneous, or you have the option of selecting 5 additional ones. That's in the general protocol. Now we're going to spend a lot of time hands-on on how to use the microcurrent, and I'm going to give another talk on actually the basics of using the microcurrent again. So this is how we like you to do the eye treatment. The glove is wrapped in a washcloth that's placed over the eyes and behind the neck. And the stress program or detox, you can just hold the gloves in your hand. Or you can put it on your belly. We talk about the eye program and we talk about body programs. Body programs are detox, stress, reducing inflammation. There's many ways to do the body programs. One is just simply hold the gloves, put it directly on the body part. Or another way is actually putting the glove and electrode in a hot tub or bathtub. Now I know your mother told you don't take electrical equipment in the bathtub, but your mother is wrong in this case. And this is my wife at St. Pete's Beach in a hot tub, and she's not holding it. It's just dangling in the water. Because remember I talked about frequencies. So frequency goes into the water that helps do the physiological effect. Now, I don't recommend you treat your eye this way, because you're not going to be able to hold your head underwater for 30 minutes. But you can use it for stress and detox. Now, this is an interesting patient of mine. He's a Catholic priest, an unusual Catholic priest, because he went and became a priest at age 55. He was married, raised a family. His wife passed away. He wanted to do something with his life, and he became a priest. So I've been treating him for many, many years using microcurrent for his macular degeneration. And he came into the office, and he was having early TIAs, transient ischemic attacks, which is like a mini stroke. And it would quickly put the microcurrent machine on his head, and it would stop the stroke.
Right. Well, the last series of TIAs, I went to program 4 on the microcurrent machine, and that seemed to have prevented more than one. This happened twice.
So it wasn't a fluke if it happened twice.
It happened twice.
Yeah.
And as regards cervical arthritis in the inflammation program, it relieved pain in a matter of minutes.
When the traction didn't help.
Right. Well, when traction didn't work.
Great.
So in terms of a general rule of using microcurrent, draw an imaginary line between one washcloth and the other. That imaginary line, you want to go through the tissue that you're treating. So this is treating an elbow. You put one here, it goes through. If you're treating your knee, one above the knee, one below. You want to make sure that the washcloths don't touch or the gloves don't touch. That's a common mistake, because when we do treatments, you'll see people holding the gloves and they'll sit on their lap and they'll have their hands together. They're not getting a treatment because electricity is lazy. It'll take the path of least resistance. And if you're holding your hands like this, it's going to go from one hand to the other, not through your body. So make sure the washcloths don't touch. If you're doing your eye treatment over your eyes, your neck, make sure for some reason that those washcloths don't touch on the side. And here's another view treating an elbow. So we like to use a cotton washcloth, thin cotton washcloth, Walmart washcloths. You can get 100 for $10. The reason why we like these is they protect the gloves, and it's a good delivery system. One of the reasons why we use a glove, this is silver impregnated silk. It has a very large surface area. Silver has an extremely high level of conduction. So place it in the center of the washcloth like this and fold it like this. This kind of becomes your treatment vehicle, putting it on your eye, your abdomen. And let me do that again.
I'm sorry, Dr. Conrad, is the washcloth moistened?
Moistened. It has to be moistened. If it's dry, it becomes a resistor. So it has to be moist so it conducts. Doesn't have to be soaking wet, moist enough. And you'll learn how to tell if you're getting an effective treatment. Since we have extremely low levels of current, you can't feel the current. So a common question is, Dr. Conrad, how do I know I'm getting a treatment? Well, we'll explain to you what to look for on your machine. Now, when not to use microcurrent. If you have a pacemaker. Now this is according to the FDA. I've treated many patients with pacemaker. It does not seem to be an issue. If you do have a pacemaker, you should get it cleared with your cardiologist. I have never had a cardiologist refuse approval for microcurrent. A seizure disorder. The FDA states you should not use it for a seizure disorder, although we're using it to treat seizure disorders. The FDA also states you should not use it on your eye, that you're here attending this because you want eye treatment. That's why it's important that you do this under a doctor's supervision. So I am supervising you when you do this treatment. And if you do have any problems, any concerns, then always give the office a call. We're always available to answer your questions. Sight-threatening conditions where surgical or medical care will have a better outcome. And this is common sense, such as a retinal detachment. I'm not going to suggest microcurrent for retinal detachment, but after the surgeon attaches the retina, then microcurrent would be highly recommended, because many times you'll have the retina repaired, the doctor will be happy because it's successful, you still can't see. That's when microcurrent can come in. Sometimes uncontrolled glaucoma, you need surgery. Optic neuritis, inflammation of the optic nerve associated with temporal arteritis, is a serious condition. And severe cases of exudative maculopathy or wet. One of the most common questions I have is, Dr. Conrad, I have wet macular degeneration. I do not want to get injections. I'm all for it. I don't like injections. The studies that have come out have shown that 20% of people who get injections will develop retinal atrophy, which is death of the retina. There was a 5-year study done. They looked at people who had repeated injections over 5 years for wet. None of them had an improvement of vision after 5 years. So what I recommend is, if you have wet, embrace the alternative treatments. Do the microcurrent faithfully. Change your diet, increase your hydration, remove heavy metals. If your vision is stable or getting better, you don't need the injection. But if you're doing the microcurrent and embracing alternative therapies and your vision's getting worse, I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, yeah, you better get the injection. And I do have a small percentage of patients who are doing both microcurrent and injections. So the bottom line is we want to do what's best for you. And as an ophthalmologist and a homeopathic doctor, I wear those two hats. I know the traditional Western side and I know the alternative side. So I want what's best for you, and I feel strongly that starting out with microcurrent and alternative treatments is the best way to go. Okay, I want to thank you for attending this lecture on microcurrent, and if you have any questions, please give the office a call at 800-430-9328, or you can always email us at info@healingtheeye.com.